So, I've been thinking, I don't do it very often, but every now and then, we can get so caught up in the things of life and ourselves, what we want, what we feel, what we think, what we desire. This is one thing I really like here. I can do that, and I ain't got to worry about the dogs running off, because them trees is the edge of our property. And then it's a farmer's field. And then they got this bigger fenced yard than the whole cul-de-sac we lived in. But when we get caught up in ourselves, when we get caught up in our flesh, when we can't disassociate ourselves from the world, we get offended. We get in our feelings. We get some kind of way. And we can't afford that. We can't afford to let the troubles of this life, the things of this world, hinder us. And by that I mean, personally, yesterday I was just a little irked, and that is passed along, I guess, to my wife and kids. I was letting my flesh, letting my feelings, letting my wants, letting me get in the way of this beautiful thing God is doing and has done in our lives. And by that, I mean, and if I walk around the front of the house, it's the same thing. Just peaceful, clean air, well water. And God's been doing this an amazing thing. From our employment to our home life, our positioning and our placement. He's just been doing a lot, and it's a huge blessing. Even in the midst of all of that, I was able to let little things, minuscule, insignificant things that aren't a big deal, affect me in a way that my flesh got riled up, and there was a little bit of irritation and a little bit of drama, for lack of better terms, that transpired in our home, mainly on my part. So we got to learn how to just die to ourselves. We got to learn how to say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not going to operate in offense. I'm not going to operate in this flesh that I have. I'm going to operate in a way that is heavenly minded, heavenly focused, looking down, instead of earthly minded and earthly focused, looking around or looking up. Because we're seated with Christ in heavenly places. Everything was paid for on the cross. Everything is available to us in spiritual places. Every blessing, every opportunity. I've carried mail, been that local mailman for the last 16 years. I'm not going to be that guy anymore. I'm going to be the supervisor inside, making sure everything gets done correctly and accurately and efficiently and with integrity behind the scenes. I'm going to be that guy that if you come into my post office and you need to talk to a supervisor, that's me. Before I was like, well, you're going to have to call the post office. Now I'll be the guy that gets the phone call. And I look forward to everything the Lord has in that, because I got 22 years before I can retire. So to step into all of this now is huge. It's perfect timing, because it's God's timing. I had a brother of mine who lives in Montana say, y'all got to come up here. And that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Montana. My wife didn't want to do 7-month winters. You know, I get it. I'm not really fond of that kind of winter either, at the end of the day. But And I told him last night, we were talking on Facebook, and I told him last night that at the end of the day, we went where the Lord told us to go. We spent many, many months praying and seeking Him concerning it before we ever took a step. Saturday was the 18th of February. It was my wife and I's 6-year anniversary. Our 6-year wedding anniversary will be in August. And we were together for 6 months before we got married. Because in that time frame, the Lord had done a lot of work on my heart. It was like, you got to get right with me if you think this is going to work at all. So that's what we did. And that's what I've been working to stay since, right with God. So the 18th was also exactly 1 year to the day that we closed on this property. I got here late Friday night. My wife and our 2 kids got here Saturday morning. I hit delay after delay getting out here. One of it's just little things here and there, but I know God has a reason. I know God has a purpose. And part of that purpose was Thursday when I was supposed to be here. There's a big storm that came through on Thursday morning-ish, and that's when I was supposed to roll in. And my trailer was way overloaded. My truck is as huge of a blessing it has been with the 100,000 plus miles I now have on it after this final leg of a trip to get out here. It's only 2-wheel drive. It's got the Lord has blessed me. It's geared, got a locker, got a lot of stuff done to it. That truck's gonna go at least another 100,000, no question about it. God has blessed me with this vehicle. But an overloaded trailer coming in with a crazy storm, and the temperatures are super low and everything else, it just wasn't going to work. And the Lord knew that. So He delayed me a couple different times. And He also delayed me because He had a plan and a purpose and a reason. He wanted exactly what He got out of that trip. Whether it was refining and purifying me, breaking stuff off of me, because had I not driven the amount of days I had driven and had the delays that I experienced, 2 flats on the trailer, old tires, and everything else, I wouldn't have listened to the different sermons and the different books that I listened to, and I wouldn't have gotten the different revelations and the different deepenings and strengthenings of the things of God in my heart and in my life. So what we see as an annoyance, as a delay, as an occasion to be offended, God is using that to purify us, to prune us, to transform us from the inside out. The enemy works from the outside in. The Creator works from the inside out. So when anything starts on the outside and it starts to get into you, no, that's not a God. But when something starts deep inside of you and it comes out of you, that is from God. So are we going to let the enemy offend us? Are we going to let the enemy, let our flesh get fired up? My wife's staring at me at the door. And are we going to, she already knew what I was doing. She just peeked out the door and said video. She's still staring at me. Are we going to let our flesh mess up all the fruits that God is producing in our life? And are we going to let our frustrations and our annoyances and our offenses block the move of God, block the blessings of God in our lives? Sometimes we overlook the small things. Sometimes we don't like the fire. But that's how gold's refined. That's how things are purified and cleansed. That's how God breaks things off of us. He puts us in situations that when we surrender to Him and we just give it up, He can break it off of us. Are we going to let God break things off of us? Or are we going to be so darn stubborn that we're going to find ourselves in that same situation again? We're going to find ourselves going through that same thing again because we were too stubborn. Or are we just going to let Him work? Are we going to let Him do what only He can do? I'm far from perfect. I'm pretty darn stubborn. You ask my wife, I'm really darn stubborn. But I'm learning. Probably not as quickly as I could, but I'm learning that when I just step back, when I stop, when I let God do what only God can do, then I receive not only a good thing, I receive a God thing. And to receive a God thing is to receive the best thing. Because this right here, this place we're at, we were led here by the Lord. But had we done things on our own, not only would we have been overextended in our finances, we would have been underblessed in our location. Because this right here is from the Lord. I'm still busy packing and unloading. This is from the Lord. And I know it's from the Lord because of how long it took. And I know it's from the Lord because when we bought this place, we'd never seen it in person. Her sister and her husband had come out, and they looked at it and they walked through it for us. But we closed on this place February 18th. The first time we saw it in person was last year in like June. We brought a load of stuff out, same trailer. And it was super overloaded too. But we brought all that stuff out. We spent a week here, and then we had to go back. And we spent another 8 months back in San Diego before the Lord brought us back out here for good. And he put me in a post office in a better position than I would have had carrying mail. He put me in a better position all the way around. But that's because I waited for him. That's because I waited for a God thing. So don't just go after a good thing. Press in and wait for the God thing.